Coppola's been talking about making this movie since 1983, and it's finally in its fruition. Of course, a lot of you have already seen it. A lot of reviews are already out. So, of course, let's talk about it.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Wake, thanks for coming back after a long absence of doing films. We had some personal things to take care of, and of course, a vacation as well, because we're heavy into movie reviews and later to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for finding us. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continued support of the show. Now that we can support the show, we do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals, great content, and an opportunity to tell us what movies we can review for future episodes, of course. Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics' reviews as well as ours. And we have increased our membership as well. Check out for our new members. Welcome, of course. Niall Schwartz from Cinema Recall is one of them. Of course, Megalopolis. Let's get to it.
Okay, let's figure this out.
Right, yeah. Right.
Set in the futuristic city of New Rome,
Not
the
New York,
film
New Rome.
follows the feud between Caesar Catalina, an artist looking to build a utopian society, and Mayor Franklin Cicero, the greedy and corrupt leader of New Rome. Caught between them is Julia Cicero, the mayor's daughter, who hopes to bridge the two men.
Out of all the things to talk about in this movie and a lot of the reviews, and some of them are very spot on, very true. One of the things I'm going to take away after seeing this, that is one of the best death scenes Audrey Plaza ever going to do in her entire life.
I mean, it's surrounded by a scene in which John Voight says, "You want to take a look at this boner I got?" So,
yeah. And it's Robin. He's dressed like Robin Hood, and he shoots her with a bow and arrow.
Yep.
Very. I don't know if it ever was out of concept for this movie. I think we're still stuck in this kind of nucleus of a concept, and see if organically we can do it this way and that way. If it doesn't work, who the hell cares? I'm Francis Ford Coppola. We'll figure it out at the end.
Well, and it's not like his last movie, Twixt, was like this, like, end on a great note. Like, it's fine. But when you get to one like this, I think this is definitely a overcooked movie. This is a 40-year-long passion project that got overcooked. I saw the same thing with Kevin Costner's film Horizon this year, where he'd been thinking about it for so long that I think he overdid it and kind of like missed the mark on it. This is a movie that I'm sure one of the screenplays was really good, one of the iterations, but then he kept working on it.
And I see the kernels of this develop from the 80s. There's a lot of this 80s concept of what the future for it's kind of still stuck in this mid-80s mentality.
Yeah.
There's a lot of subplots that don't go anywhere. A lot of subplots that is unnecessary. For a film that talks about let's get forward thinking, let's talk about the future, is very old fashioned in its way it handles the characters.
Yeah, I was thinking the 80s version of this film had everyone on rollerblades. Like, I guarantee you they moved from scene to scene that way.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, there's a movie that came out probably about 5-6 years ago called Gemini Man with Will Smith and directed by Ang Lee.
We all saw that trailer. Yeah,
that was a screenplay that was written in the 90s. And when you see the movie, you're like, yeah, that's a screenplay that hasn't been touched since the 90s. I get a sense that there's some of that to this. That this film, again, just has that length to it that just doesn't seem to upstart itself.
So, my initial reaction is, it's very much like an Iron Man book. This is like Atlas Shrugged on acid. But definitely the characters are, it seems like every character is doing their own different movie, like their own individual movie. Or different,
all the actors are in different films.
Yeah, they're all different films. You have Shia LaBeouf in drag for some reason. They don't present like why, who's kind of this court jester kind of a thing. It's very Shakespearean, but it doesn't get fruition like why. Was that a car chase? I don't know. There was a car moving, but was that a car chase?
The film was, I was with the movie actually until that big wedding sequence, probably about halfway through. I was kind of like, it's not great, but I'm kind of vibing with it. And then from that point on, the film just kind of branches out into all these ludicrous dimensions where I'm not really sure what the intention of any of these plot threads are. And you're right, every single person is in a different movie, and I think it boils down to Francis Ford Coppola being a director that's not spent a ton of time with green screen, and I guarantee you a lot of these scenes were shot in front of a green screen because there's that weird, glossy, kind of Scream 4 look to it.
Like the Star Wars prequels, kind of a distance from these things. But if you want to flush out that as a dynamic of a power struggle between two aristocrats, fine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Kick it out. But then you have these women, the female characters either want to be a mother or they're super horny.
Yeah. And we've had really well written characters in Francis Ford Coppola films, especially on the women's side of things.
Yeah.
I think some of the best character writing in the Godfather films were some of the female characters. Kay, for example, I think she has an incredibly dynamic arc across.
And she's not there. What we see in this movie, like Audrey Plaza, is just jumping to a relationship to a relationship to a relationship, and being schemy about it. But that's it for her.
Yeah. And I feel like Natalie Emanuel's character. I like Natalie Emanuel actually. I think she usually does a lot with what she's given, and I think this is a case where she's playing this movie incredibly straight, and she's the only person who seems to be playing the movie straight. And I think that's a flaw in directing. You know, we saw a Q&A before the film aired, a Q&A that is on its own baffling. In which Coppola described how it's not the director's praise if actors do their job. But I do think there is something about a director telling their actor, I need you to do this, and like cushioning them left and right. I feel like he didn't do that in this movie.
Right. I've been a director. I'm directing a short animation film, and then the people are doing the voiceovers. They want the feel, the texture of what we're wanting, and I have to present them. This is kind of the environment that you're doing. This is kind of they want that. You just can't put them on set and say go and see what happens.
Yeah, especially when you're working with so much unreality about not having full sets, not having props, or what I assume would happen in this film is that the people are staring at, like, for you right now, before we edited this is a green screen behind us, and we need a director to tell us how we should be in front of this screen.
Yeah, so it's very uneven, and eventually I think the boils down to somebody that just was constantly getting surrounded by people, and somebody's like, you need to flush out this script. You have too many concepts to it.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the future, but you're doing ancient Rome, for God's sake, right?
Well, I think that's a great point, and I think it goes back to what we discussed about the Star Wars prequels. There is stuff if you watch the bonus features, I think it's Phantom Menace, there's a scene where they're looking over, I think, Jar Jar Binks' descriptions, and everyone in that room with George Lucas is agreeing with him. Every person is telling him that he's right. And the thing is, that's not good. And I don't know if that's a Lucas fault or them, or in this case, Coppola's fault, but surround yourself with people that will challenge you instead of telling you yes all the time, because you're right. The screenplay, this is one of the films where Coppola wrote the screenplay on his own, and if you notice, his best movies are co-written by Coppola, not fully written by Coppola. And I think this is a case where this is a passion project. He should have stepped aside and let somebody else come in and help him write it, because I think it's missing there. Because
he wanted somebody you're going to infringe on my vision I want to see. But understand, there is no clear vision.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I didn't know who I was following from half the movie.
I understand if you have a very simple, clear vision, you don't want anybody to. But if you have, like, I don't know where we're going with this. This is just, what is this? This looks like a car commercial sometimes.
Yeah. And, in that Q&A, when the directors weren't all talking about how they met each other for 45 minutes, there was a part of it that I really connected with where Coppola was talking about how we need to have a conversation about how the future is going to go, and we need to have it together. And I really feel like that was a really noble idea to go with this sci-fi fable with. But it's not in the movie. I mean, the line is in the movie, but
the line is in the movie, but it's a throwaway line.
Yep, and by the end of the film, Adam Driver's character becomes such a small part of it that it doesn't have any impact when he says the line. And it's too bad, because I think that is a very noble idea for your sci-fi fable epic. It just doesn't come through in there at all. And I think this is a case where you're too close to the material, and you got to get somebody who's going to tell you no, someone who's going to help you rewrite it, someone's going to make it better.
Right. I expect my daughter to quote Marcus Aurelius 3 times in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically like Lutheran going in and
right. But I don't care about any of the characters involved. Mm-hmm. In fact, I wanted to punch Adam Driver, and he's the best one.
Yeah. Well, and he's the one who I feel like Annette prepped him for this movie. That movie he made with the puppet child. I think that prepped him for this movie, because I do think that he's kind of he's maybe the closest one to the wavelength that I think Coppola's film ended up being.
I don't think I'll ever see another script where a person has the ability to stop time. We don't know why, we don't know how, but that has never come into play of the story ever.
Yeah, and what an odd dispatch of the Dustin Hoffman character as well. Like, you don't even
just
have to
throw him in there, right?
Yeah, he's in there for a couple of scenes, and then they just kind of quick explain why he's not in the rest of the movie, and he serves no purpose.
And you have Jason Schwartzman just like put his head there, make sure we know Jason Schwartzman. But it's very unhinged. Mm-hmm. And somebody should have told them, stop, put some clarity involved. I understand. Be weird. We like weird. Yeah. Be weird. But have some coherency to it. Mulholland Drive is weird.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you can follow some kind of similar text to it, a thread of some kind of story.
Well, that's, I mean, you know, even just thinking of all of Lynch's work, or most of Lynch's work, I would say, you do have a story, even if you don't know entirely what all the details are. Yeah. He has a beginning, middle, end. He has characters that evolve over it. He has a story that is taking place. This is a movie where none of the subplots really have beginning, middle, or end. They're missing some portion of it. The main plot itself, I feel like, makes leaps to get to that end. Because there's a moment when they're fighting, and then we get to the end of the movie, and all of a sudden something has happened that has changed those relationships, and I didn't buy that connectivity. I didn't. And it's so frustrating.
Right. They have this treadmill that you can get on.
Oh, yeah.
And the mayor's wife gets on the treadmill, and she holds on her hand for him to join. And it's shot of the hands, shot. It's 5 cut edits of something you can just do for 2 seconds.
Yep.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. And I don't buy that those little ramps can fix relationships. I've been to the airport, but it's just a case of everything in the film. We're here for 2 hours and 20 minutes. That is a lot of real estate. Use it. You have a lot of characters. You have a lot of plots. I wouldn't mind a great 3 hour and 20 minute Godfather Part 2. This epic story with a bunch of subplots to it. We're here for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I feel like we maybe have 35 minutes of story.
If that. Yeah. So, I think we're being kind of nice. Keep the conversation going with your comments. I know you have a lot to say about it if you've seen this movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me do my final nicety and say, I don't think this is a good movie. I think it is a very poorly made movie, but I am fascinated to rewatch the film. Perhaps under the air of at my home when I can pause and walk away angrily, maybe imbibe some substances.
My conversation with people, it's not a bad film to go see, like it's so bad it's enjoyable. This is, you go see like, are you serious?
Yeah. But it is a movie I'd like to see again. I don't want to pay to see it, and I don't want to tell you to pay to see it. But I do want to check it out again because I'm just fascinated by it.
And now we know why Lionsgates were putting out fake reviews to get ahead of the game, because they saw this and like, oh my God, okay.
Yeah, I mean, this was a bungling of everything marketing-wise as well, but that's just kind of another story for another day, and it's a really tragic one because Lionsgate's had a horrible year this year.
Right. I was an hour in thinking, okay, it's a little bit like Babylon. There's going to be a few niches of people who are really going to enjoy this movie.
Like that chariot chase. That was cool. I was digging the chariot chase inside of the,
But then this whole, I'm a virgin, but I'm not a virgin, and this almost sexual assault thing.
Yeah. It's a very peculiar movie.
Oh.
It is not one that we are going to be recommending to you. But if you happen to see the film and you come on back,
if you don't want to watch Ford Coppola, go watch Dracula. It's all Halloween pretty soon.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I can give you at least half a dozen Coppola films that are better because they're all classics, really, in that time period between the 70s and 90s. But yeah, this is a.
I knew we were in trouble when the interview that you couldn't answer a direct question from the narrator.
From the actual guy in the audience.
Yeah, the guy. Tell us about our movie, and then he starts talking about The Godfather. I knew we were in trouble.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's an overreaching film. It's an ambitious film, and I want to applaud that. We saw our version had a live element in it. There was an actual person in the audience that interacted with the film, which is not going to be in all screens. I will say that about 50, I think it was 50 theaters across the nation are going to have that. It's an interesting idea, but it's, again, one that's an idea never fully utilized. Like, it does not really have any purpose in the film.
Right.
And that's kind of the problem with this. It's a lot of ambitious ideas that are never fully used.
Right, yeah. So, continue with our assessment. Keep the comments going.
Yeah, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. We appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Kyle and Nick on Film. We got more big end-of-year movies on your way.
Oh, God, yeah.
And we'll find out if the year is
I'm going to have to refill this.
You know? So, thank you for joining us. You can find all of my film reviews over at GoFilmReviews.com.
Thanks for watching, and you can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts.